Hello, my name is Dan Klein, and this is the first of what we hope to be many, insert name here, podcast. I think we're going to go with Sent to the Office, but we'll get to that here in a moment. One of my best friends in the world, I've been trying to get him to do a podcast for a long time, and I finally talked him into it. So, without further ado, this is Joel Schutte sitting with me, and we're going to talk about a few things. Joel, I'm excited.
Dan, I'm excited too, man. This is gonna be fun. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. Don't know when you're listening to this, so about 9 o'clock at night out here in Dan's backyard, so you could probably hear some skeeters, and no, they don't make noise. You're hearing some bugs maybe in the background. I don't even know what they are.
Did you say you can hear?
No, I'm saying they can hear. Skeeters. So, I'm saying they can hear. I can't hear anything.
So you were implying, though, that people can hear mosquitoes.
That
sound out there. Wow.
I'm not a bug expert here, Dan, but there's some sounds out there. I know that there are.
Yes, there are, Joel.
Okay.
We are out here in the woods.
Okay.
But, this podcast, I think, is going to be successful, and I'll tell you why.
Okay.
And by successful, I think maybe a couple of people will listen to it.
That's fine with me.
I think there's a thirst out there for what you bring to the table, which is someone who is going through things that a lot of people can identify with, they can relate to, and you're not afraid to make fun of yourself. And it is fun to make fun of you.
I know.
So
it's okay.
Yeah.
So this podcast, as Dan alluded to, I kind of thought the title "Sent to the Office" might be okay, and there are a couple of reasons for that. You know, obviously I was a school administrator for 12 years or so.
Obviously, this is a lot of people may be listening.
Maybe for the first time. Okay, so yeah, I was a school administrator for about 12 years. So students would be, sent to the office to see me. But also when I was young, a young teenager, an angry young man, I was sent to the office many, many times, sometimes even more than once a day. So I kind of thought the sent to the office thing had a decent ring to it, but I think you have other plans.
Well, we'll get to that. I was thinking Tremendous Fat Ass, The Adventures of Tremendous Fat Ass, but
I can't even hear that without laughing. That just cracks me up.
But I do like Sent to the Office.
Okay.
You were an administrator not just at the high school, not just any high school. It was the great majority of it at our alternative school called the Harbor. And I just think it's a good, full circle, good story. You are that thing which keeps us going as teachers. You're the walking success story from what, as far as I'm concerned. So you had a very, at risk on,
Yeah.
And you eventually were a principal of many students who you had a lot in common with.
Right.
And I just think that's an inspiring story that people need to hear.
Well, we'll see, right? We'll see if they need to hear it.
Or The Adventures of Tremendous Fat Ass.
Yeah, okay, now, here's the way I look at it. Okay, Sent to the Office, we're going to talk about a variety of things, right?
Yes, yes.
Some of them might be serious. Some of them might be reflections on my past, my childhood, maybe my professional career. Could be topics that are going on today. But then there's also going to be a lot of lighthearted stuff, I hope, that's funny, because and so maybe that's where the Adventures of Tremendous Fat Ass come in. And that, I should probably explain how that even started.
That's a nice little segue into what I'm talking about.
Okay.
This thing that people know that a lot of people struggle with, your insecurities and this and that. And when you can get a laugh out of it with people that have that in common with you, it's powerful.
Right.
Now, that is our segue into The Adventures of Tremendous Fat Ass.
Okay, I've been dying to,
So, first of all,
Yep.
why you have to explain why you were not able to make the basketball team in ninth grade.
Okay.
And it was not because you weren't good at basketball.
No. Yeah, and maybe some of my friends in ninth grade would say different. But I in ninth grade I did try out for basketball at the high school, and it was like a 2 or 3 night tryout. And at the end of the tryout, our head coach, and I'm not even sure if he's still around or not. His name was Dave Bennett, and he sat me down and said, hey, Shooty, and he had to look at the piece of paper to find out what my name was. Hey, Shooty, hey, I got to tell you that you didn't have a bad tryout. You played good defense and you rebound well, and you had some putbacks and scored some points, but I got to tell you here, Shooty, you're way too fat to play basketball.
Too fat.
Too fat.
Said those words.
He said it. The words that would get a teacher or a coach fired today.
Yeah.
He said,
he laid it down for you.
And I have to believe that my response was just a solemn nod.
Oh yeah.
Just an acknowledge. Because in ninth grade I was 6 foot and 240 pounds.
And you were too fat.
I was too fat. I was 6. There's not
no,
many.
No, you weren't too fat, but you know what I mean.
Too fat for basketball. He
did
wasn't.
Did he say he did have a jersey for you?
Yes.
That's great.
Not only that, yeah. So if you look at a ninth grade basketball team, you're not going to see too many 6 foot, 240 pound players. And I just didn't have a good sense of reality when I was 14.
Hey,
I really thought I had a shot.
There's some fat NBA players, fat-ish, and they're pretty damn good.
Yeah, but not like that.
So later in life.
No. Before that, I should mention that he did say, he did add to make it. I don't know if he's trying to comfort the blow, but you know what, Shooty? I don't even have a uniform for you. He didn't have a uniform big enough for me, so. Even if he wanted to be on the team,
your belly would be squirting out of it or something,
which would be fine with me. I mean, that was the time of half t-shirts anyway.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
I mean, that walk around with it hanging out.
Yeah. When he had to look at the paper because he didn't remember your name,
right.
He had a nickname for it in his head.
He did. Yeah. Right. So the Tremendous Fat Ass came about because 10, 12 years ago, I was in a fantasy football league online on ESPN.com. Well, I shouldn't have said their name. Now we have to. Are we promoting ESPN? We're not promoting ESPN, but anyway. And I selected my team name as Tremendous Fat Ass because I think that's funny. It's funny to me. Okay, so every year now, since that time, 10, 12 years ago, I get an email from ESPN.com that says, "Greetings, Tremendous Fat Ass." And it's, an introduction to fantasy football, which I'm not in that league anymore, but every year it just takes me by surprise, and it's like the first time it happened.
I've seen the emails, and it always makes me laugh. And then it was just recently, though, when you were telling me about not making the team in ninth grade, the basketball team, and we were talking about the podcast, and I said, "There's the title."
That's right.
The Adventures of Tremendous Fat Ass.
And maybe that could be, if it's not the title of our podcast, maybe that could be the title of episode 1. Adventures of Tremendous Fat Ass.
Okay.
But we'll see.
Yeah.
Or maybe we, after a while, we put it up to a vote if we have 7 listeners who give a shit.
Yes.
We can have them vote. But, we'll see how it goes, man. But that's how Tremendous Fat Ass got his start.
Yeah, and I do want to do that, though. Like, each time we have an episode, we're going to have some weird question. Today's is, you've got 30 seconds where your dog can understand English, and you can talk to them. And you can talk, you can say what you want, he'll understand.
Yep.
What is it that you would say? Now, what I want to do is, we're going to share ours, and then people can get on Facebook, on our whatever, our podcast deal, and put on there what they would say to their dog.
This is important. I don't know. See, I put a lot of thought into this. I don't have my 30 seconds prepared right now, but I have many rough drafts.
Yeah, so let's just throw some bullet points.
Well, the thing that they need to understand, though, is that if you have 30 seconds to talk to your dog, and they can understand you, and then when that 30 seconds is up, it's back to normal.
Yeah.
What would you say? Because I know, we have 2 dogs at home. You have 2 dogs. They do some frustrating things, and if you had the opportunity, I think you'd want to jam as many words as you could in that 30 seconds. You'd have to edit it. You'd have to, write rough drafts. Strike
you're
this.
Trying to overthink it.
No, that's what you have to do.
Here's the thing, I got some main things, all right? I'm going to start it and end it with "I love you."
See, that's a waste of time.
No.
That's a waste of time. You scratch on the head.
But in between, that took like 2 seconds. I got a couple of things.
Number
one, why do you want to roll in horse shit? What do you like? I mean, I don't understand.
But they can't answer you.
Okay, well, guess what? When you come back and you have horse shit all over you and I call you a stupid ass, dumbass dog,
right?
You'll
You'll get
maybe
it.
you would understand why.
Right.
You know, put two and two together.
Right.
So
they're both rolling in.
No, I'm just talking about. I don't even.
Just Molly.
If I had 30 seconds, can I use Joy's 30 seconds for Molly, my lab? Because I want the full minute with the lab.
Yes.
You know,
Oh, really? You don't have anything to say to Joy?
I got nothing.
Okay.
What am I going to say?
All right.
Stop staring at me all the time.
Right.
That gets a little weird.
Right. It does. It does. So anyway, that could be a possibility for some audience participation to see what you would say.
Yeah.
I know that there's really nothing I'd say to Paco because he's a good boy.
He wouldn't understand you.
Well, right, and he speaks Spanish only, so I'd have to figure that out.
Paco is a puppy we brought back from Mexico. Great story.
Paco is a non-native English speaker.
Airplane.
He's a dreamer. Came over here and, with the current political climate, he's a little concerned. He stays inside the house. He doesn't want ICE to show up and ask for his credentials, which he doesn't have. So, but I think my 30 seconds would be dedicated to Murph, man, because she's a rascal. Huh. She does a lot of dumb stuff.
Paco was scared of ICE. One day I was over there, he looked over at me and he asked me if I'd ever had my shit pushed in.
Oh. Hey, Holmes. Oh, goodness gracious.
Yeah,
oh, boy.
So we are bringing Paco back. Okay, we're in Cozumel, or is it Cozumel?
I think it's Cozumel.
Okay, with our wives.
This is 7.5 years ago, by the way.
Yes, took the ferry over to the mainland.
Tulum.
Yeah.
From Tulum. Bringing
the ferry back, we're in line, look over, see this puppy. And, what are you going to do? You got to go pet the puppy. And Joel didn't you try to talk to the guy?
We both did, yeah, because he was like, the puppy
English.
Was over the shoulder of this guy. And Marta, saw him first, and we went up and the guy, no habla. So, we did what we could. We pet him.
Fast forward, next day. We're at the airport.
In Cozumel. Keep in mind, we were in Tulum where we saw the dog.
Yes.
The puppy. So here we are.
I probably don't know what that. I mean, I don't even know what Tulum means.
Tulum is where the ruins.
Somewhere else. The next day, we're back in Cozumel at the airport. Look over. Joel says, "I swear that's the same puppy." And Joel's a dog guy. Like, he doesn't throw that around all willy-nilly. He knows a lot about dogs. I'll give you that.
I think I know a lot about dogs.
So go over. Sure enough, same dog.
Same dog. In a kennel.
And then we learn what's going on with the dog.
That's right. From the ARL, essentially the ARL in Cozumel was flying this puppy to Denver, Colorado, where it was going to be fostered out, and apparently they have a relationship with, a couple of vets and a couple of ARL type places in the United States. So the whole point, this dog was going to be flying with a person who was going to drop him off at this place in Denver, so he might be adopted. So when Marna heard that,
yep,
and I saw the look in her eye, the only other time in her life, in my life, I've ever seen that look is the day she met me.
Aww.
She had to have that dog, man.
Yep.
And so the next thing I know,
that was great.
Marna's talking to these people saying, well, can we take him back with us to Iowa? And, at that point, Dan, I'm looking for a 30-second timeout.
Yeah.
Because, we already have a dog.
Yep. I was encouraging it.
Yeah. Well,
I knew if you get a puppy, it's basically like me getting a puppy.
It's like Dan getting a puppy.
I don't have to do the work.
That's right.
I was egging Marna on.
So I basically told Marna, I'm like, you know what, honey, there is no way they're going to let us take this dog back into Iowa.
I really didn't think it would happen either.
Nope. And so while I'm saying that, 5 minutes later, they hand Marna the puppy carrier, the paperwork, and said, congratulations, you have a puppy.
Out the door we went.
Out the door. And, and at that point, man, I am not confident we're going to get through the Atlanta airport. Because we had to connect through Atlanta.
Yeah. And at one point, we're going through customs back into the States. Didn't you run?
I did. I did. Okay, so when you bring a live animal back from another country, especially a country like Mexico, where there's some history of drug smuggling, they check the animals, they make sure that they're not carrying disease. They're also checking for I don't know what, maybe it doesn't have anything to do with drug smuggling, but I kind of thought they did at the time, and so we get to this line, and I put the dog carrier on the conveyor belt and sent him through the X-ray machine. And the next thing I know, I hear this woman's voice saying, "Oh my Lord, what fool put this dog through the X-ray machine?"
And I pointed my finger directly at Joel.
And I'm that fool, man. That was me. And I'm just trying to picture this lady on her 8-hour shift watching these bags go through with toothbrushes and whatever else you might pack. And all of a sudden she sees this tiny little dog skeleton roll through.
With the little dog skeleton tail wagging.
Yes.
He's all excited.
So after that ordeal, we brought him home, man, and we've had him, ever since.
Yeah. So,
and he's a good dog.
And they were, Paco, he's lucky to be alive. A couple of his siblings didn't make it.
That's right. That's right.
They were found at some construction site.
Yep.
So, Paco's been in the shit. And I'm just saying.
He survived. He's a tough hombre.
They're going to take him alive.
Well, and it's funny that, now that you mentioned that, in the past when you have talked to me about doing this podcast, and there have been other people that have kind of encouraged me to tell my story, is when I've given a presentation at educational conferences with Paco in my presentation. So, and I kind of used him in that, during the presentation as an example of resilience and that kind of thing, because man, he should have died.
Opportunity.
His siblings passed away, and I always joke with the kids that he ate his siblings to stay alive.
Oh, because he's so fat.
Because he is really, he's carried a lot of
How about the adventures of tremendous fat ass and his tremendous fat ass dog?
his sidekick.
Yes, Paco looks, he almost doesn't look like a dog. I don't even know how his little legs support him.
I don't know either. Quinn's friend, Katie, I think, said that Paco looks like a fat tater tot with legs.
Yes,
and there's really no other description that is better than that. So,
but we love him.
We do. He's an awesome dog.
We love Paco too.
Yep.
What?
Yeah, right.
See what I mean?
Yeah, there we go.
All right, so I don't know how you want to do your story part, because the first time I heard it was on like a drive back from Texas when we had 12 hours and like.
Oh, kind of like the drive we just did?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think, do you want to piece some of it out? Like, to me, the basics of it. How many schools were you at before you ended up?
Well, I know when I would speak at these conferences, the thing that I would talk to these fellow educators, these, usually alternative educators, it was mainly a motivational thing. I wasn't giving them any, any strategies that they could write down and use in their classrooms. This was, purely motivational stuff. But I would just talk about how, I went to 14 schools before junior high, man. I switched schools 14 times, and just, not having anything, being poor and,
okay, so just
that kind of thing.
Pause for a moment.
Okay.
If someone is listening, the one person that's listening to that,
okay,
think about that. 14 different schools by the time you were in junior high. I can't fathom that.
Right. Right.
For a lot of people, I think if they reflect on it, they really have this sense of identity with their that one main elementary school or whatever.
Right.
Or maybe some people have done 4 or 5.
Yeah.
I can't imagine that.
I did 4 in 4th grade.
So
I did 4 different schools.
Never really developing any kind of connection with.
No.
You couldn't.
Because I knew that I'd be moving. So here's the, when you think about, okay, this is the 1970s, 1980s, before they had electronic student records. And so I was often moving so frequently that my school records would be 2 schools behind in a different state. Mm-hmm. I would move to a place and my mom would show up there and she'd sign a couple forms. And, of course, we didn't have a phone my entire childhood. So, my mom would leave the office and just say, okay, Mr. or Mrs., whoever your name is, little Joel is yours. And I don't, you don't know if he's smart or dumb or, it needs help or doesn't need help, or if he's got dietary needs or health issues. You really don't know anything. And that's the state of education then. Now, obviously now, as soon as a kid enrolls, we look on the computer and we can see that. So, I think that, that's the part that after I moved a few times and changed schools a few times, after a while, I just, I would literally ask the teacher if I could put my desk away from everybody else. I didn't want to talk to anybody because I knew, what's the point?
Yeah.
I was going to move, And so, I went a lot of years as an elementary student and not saying many words to anybody, kind of lost in my own world. So it was, I had some socialization issues probably growing up, and that you had to overcome. So, but I was thinking of, that kind of reminded me. I don't know if I think I told you this story, but one of the first times I moved was when I was in first grade, and it was after the start of the school year. It was probably October, November. So I came from Iowa.
Is this when you pooped your pants?
I did.
Oof.
Wait a spoiler alert!
You had your first shart.
No, it was full on. It was full on. There was no shart about it. So here I am in first grade, okay, and my mom signs me up, and it's in Ocean Springs, Mississippi, and I'm in first grade, and I just turned 7, and they take me to the classroom, and I'm sitting in my desk, and I don't know how long I'm there, but I realize suddenly I have to go to the bathroom. It's urgent.
Yeah.
It's an emergency. And I also remember that I don't know my teacher's name.
Nope.
Because I just met her that day. So I'm watching her at the chalkboard, and she's instructing us on something, and I am trying to struggle with, do I just raise my hand? Do I walk out the door? I don't, what do I do? And before I knew it, I had pooped my pants, Dan. I pooped my pants and full on filled them right up. Okay? So now I have a big problem. A bigger problem than I had before.
Yep.
So at that point,
same problem. It's in a different place.
Different, right? Different sense of urgency too. Because so what I did is I waited for the teacher to turn her back at the chalkboard, and then I just strolled right out the door of the classroom. Went to the bathroom. 7-year-old Joel tried to clean himself up the best he could, and then I just walked out the front door and walked home. It was probably 10 in the morning. Okay.
How did you even know how to get home?
No, I didn't, because we'd only been in the house for, I don't know, a few days, and I was 7. We drove to the school, I think. I don't even remember. But so I wandered around trying to find a house that I barely even knew what it looked like for what it seemed like hours. It could have been minutes. I don't know. I was 7, but it seemed like a long time. Okay. Now, I finally found our house because I recognized the car. We had a 66 Mustang that was 9 different colors. It was really hard to, not see that car. Walked in, and I think my mom said something, well, hey, bud, what are you doing here so early? And we just got out of school earlier. I don't know what I said, but she seemed to accept it. And I, took a shower, went back to school the next day, and nothing happened.
Wow.
Nothing. Okay.
No, where'd you go?
No, where'd you go? What, we missed you. It was, I sat down at my desk, and nobody said a thing. And, and I'm trying to picture that happening in today's world. Everybody would get an Amber Alert.
Yeah.
But they couldn't call home. We didn't have a phone.
No.
And, they look at it, now that I've been a school person for so long, it seems like it'd been a smart idea to send somebody to the address on the enrollment form.
Yeah.
But nothing. So, and I'm just saying that because now I think it's kind of funny.
Yeah.
That was my first attempt at being, a problem solver, I guess. But,
well, and it shows some insight to what I'm talking about. That level of at-riskness. It's something that I think people forget. We take so much for granted, but there's a lot of kids out there now that have moved schools several times, and haven't made those connections along the way.
Right.
So. That's why I think not just teachers, just people in general. Right.
Right. And I had a lot of good teachers and people that did connect with me when I was growing up, but overall it was. It was kind of a struggle knowing that when I would move, and when we would move, man, some days I would go to school and it'd be a normal day, and I'd get home from school and there'd be boxes all over our house, and You know, my mom would give me a box and say, "Pack your room, bud, we're leaving." And there'd be a U-Haul in the driveway, and you know, started the day not knowing I was going to move. End of the day, we're moving tonight. And
I remember you saying one time you came home and your jacket was back at school, and
yeah, I left. Yeah, at least one time in that situation, you know, I left my books at school, my pencils, you know, if I had a jacket, a lunchbox, you know, all this stuff. And I'm just trying to picture, you know, Dan, you're a teacher. You know, there's teachers out there maybe listening to this. Try to imagine, you know, you have a kid in your classroom, and then the next day he's not there, and the next day, and the next day, and no call because there's no phone. His jacket's here. He's got to be coming back, right?
Wow.
You know? So I'm just trying to, you know, I wonder what went through their minds. After a week or 2 weeks of not returning, maybe they visited the house and figured out we weren't there. But it's a different world now, man. I mean, that's not even possible anymore.
Yeah.
You know, but, you know, and I'm not complaining, man. I mean, it may be who I am. So, you know, everybody goes through some challenges, but there's a lot of stories around those moves that I'll get to.
Okay, so that gives us some insight on where you came from. Now, along the way, where was a notable, shift in your direction in life?
Like as far as, seventh grade, man, when my mom and stepdad got divorced. That was a big deal. And that stuff, you know, obviously
And
kids,
that was positive.
What's that?
Positive?
Well, it turned out to be that way, but it didn't feel that way at the time.
Okay, yeah.
You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
So, and that stuff kids go through every day, you know, so I wasn't special in that regard, but it sure made me angry.
Yeah.
You know?
I'm looking for the positive shift.
Positive shift. Oh, see, I don't hear too good, Danny. If you said positive, I didn't hear it.
We already got him kind of on the depressed side.
Yeah,
now we're gonna come back.
So we gotta jump back.
Yeah, something good that started, because now you're a good guy.
Yeah, well, I think the positive. I mean, there was in high school. I remember sitting in a class my 10th grade year, probably February, and I got a pass to come to the auditorium, and I went. And I sat through a presentation on the Upward Bound program. And that was probably, that was the most pivotal moment of my childhood, as far as taking me in a different direction. And, and I think back on that, having started my career as a guidance counselor, that pass was sent to me by a counselor at Lincoln High School named Lori Streffler. And maybe there are people listening to this from Lincoln that would remember her. Mm-hmm. But Dan, she wasn't my guidance counselor. She was somebody else's, but she looked at test scores, or I don't know what she did, but she decided, let's set a pass to these 25 kids, me included, and let's let them listen to a presentation on Upward Bound.
Why don't you talk about Upward Bound?
Oh yeah, Upward Bound. Okay, Upward Bound is a TRIO program. It's a federally funded program that started in the 60s, and my Upward Bound diehard folks are probably, laughing that I don't remember the year because they talk about it. But it is designed to help first-generation low-income students. First generation meaning their parents did not go to college. It's designed to help them go to college and kind of figure out what college is all about. Because the odds are, as you know, if your parents didn't go to college, you're probably not going to go to college either. Mm-hmm. And so TRIO and Upward Bound is the goal is to break that cycle, and help students feel like they have opportunities that they don't have. And so I sat through that presentation, and I got to tell you, the only reason I applied was there was a guy who was a year older than me in the auditorium at the same time, and he was a football player and I was a football player, but I looked up to him. His name was Pat Doffenbaugh. Great guy. I've talked to him a long time. Ended up going to the same college as he. We both went to Central College, but he was there and he had gone the summer before. And I thought, well, if Pat's going, I'm going. Mm-hmm. So I applied, and that started that June. As soon as school got out, I hopped on a bus out in front of Lincoln High School, took us to Pella for a 6-week stay in their dormitories. And when I got back, man, I was a different person.
That's amazing.
It totally kind of opened a door that I didn't know. because before that, man, the only thing I knew about college was I had this nebulous idea that maybe I'd play college football. But I didn't know how to get into school. I didn't know what that was about. You know, all I knew about college was you had to go there to play college football. That was all I knew.
Yeah.
You know, and then of course I didn't play college football anyway. So, but yeah, so Upward Bound, man, I spent 3 summers there. There were people, and I'll talk more about Upward Bound down the road, but it changed my view. It told me that I didn't have to, you know, follow in the same path as everybody else around me. And I'm not knocking. I mean, you know, I grew up my last, 5 years of, school at, on the South Side. And the South Side's a great place. Right. And a lot of people, generationally live there, but sometimes they live there because they don't like anywhere, because they don't know they can go anywhere else.
Right.
And that showed me that I could stay there or I could go wherever I wanted to go.
Right.
So that was the best moment, man. That was awesome. It right there.
Well, I know there's a lot more of them to talk about in the future.
Right.
And but that football was a good segue there. Football's been a big part of your life.
Yep.
And still is.
Yep.
Today was your youngest son's first football practice of the season, right? How'd it go?
Yeah, Beck is a 9th grader this fall, and he's my youngest of 4. And he's been going to camp all summer and lifted weights with the team. And but today was his first official high school football practice, and it means a lot to me, because
it's a big deal.
It is a big deal. Football and Upward Bound were the things that kept me in school.
Right.
If I couldn't have played football, then I don't know if I'd have stayed in school. I don't know. It's hard to say.
Well, that's why, real quick, that's why this no pass, no play bullshit is dumb.
Dumb.
Like, you were lucky that you were smart and, you could pass your classes.
Right, but I didn't. In 9th grade, I failed every class but one.
Oh, so...
So by today's standards, there's no way I'd be eligible.
And that would have never happened because the only reason you went was a connection you had with one of the other football players.
Right.
You take away...
Right.
It's just...
Right. And, and football was one way...
I think there's times when, on an individual basis where the parent, the teacher, and everybody's on board together, it's truly just an effort issue, and they think it can get them over the hump. But I don't like this peanut butter spread. No, if you don't pass, and you don't get to play or whatever.
Right.
It's a connection with school.
Right.
It's dumb.
Like we do in alternative ed, man. I mean, being fair doesn't mean everybody gets the same thing.
No.
Being fair means you get what you need.
Yeah.
And some kids that fail a class maybe shouldn't be eligible.
Anybody that wants to talk fair, we can get out the paper and pencil and go through what kind of situation they were born into. And, how many schools did you go to?
Right.
Before you got to junior high?
Right.
My boy here's got 14.
Right.
So.
Yeah, did your parents graduate from college? Did your parents, did they have a good income? Were they together?
It's just...
So, yeah, football was a big thing, man. So, it was a big day today for me because I got to tell you, my older son, Cade, just graduated high school in the spring, and he completed 4 years of high school football, and I can't even tell you how much joy that brought me to see him go through that journey because, especially his senior year, because he, the first, here he is, this, big kid, big strong kid, worked really hard, but the football team had a lot of talented offensive linemen. Yeah. So, Cade, he didn't play that first game at all. And I'll never forget, man, when he came home, I've never seen him more sad. Yeah. He looked devastated. And I got to tell you, Martin and I were sad all night long. Thinking, is this going to be his senior year? Is he not going to play?
Sad, you're sad.
Yeah, after all that work he put in, all that effort. And, Cade's a pretty upbeat kid, I think you would agree.
Absolutely.
And to see him just devastated was hard. But, by game 3, and it's funny about that is that, Marna, my wife, was invited to go to San Francisco with her sister. And she, she's like, I don't know if I should go. I'll miss one of Cade's games. And I'm like, baby, he hasn't even played yet.
Yeah.
And this is game 3. So Marna went to San Francisco.
I know what you're going to say.
And I'm standing on the sidelines with, my former colleagues and things, and with a friend of mine named Kyle who works there. And Kyle pokes me, man, right when the game started. He goes, Joel, look. And I look, and there's my son trotting out on the field, starting with the first offensive line group.
Yep.
And he started the rest of the regular season. And the only reason I'm bringing that up is because, he worked so hard, man, and football was such a big thing, and he left that, and then they went to the Dome, and they went to the playoffs, and they were, started 0-5, won the last 4 games, squeaked into the playoffs, won 2 playoff games, and you know what, Cade will never forget that. Right. That was such a positive experience for him, and it could have went the other way. It could have went, if he would have got in the game.
And think about this. You ask people today, what were some takeaways from your high school experience that you use today?
Right.
I don't think there's too many people going, well, thank goodness I had that English teacher, Dan, who taught me the difference between a simile and a metaphor.
Dan, what is the difference between a simile and a metaphor?
Who cares? One of them uses like or as. But anyway.
You walked right into that one, buddy.
That sense of accomplishment that he got from it.
Nobody's gonna remember. Yeah, my 4th grade teacher taught me excellent handwriting. Nobody cares about that. It's what you did in football or track or band or drama or the things that you did outside of school that kept you interested in school.
Yeah.
And so Cade had this wonderful positive experience that could have went the other way, and so now he's done, and he says now he's retired. He's retired from football, and now here's my other son starting today.
How'd it go, by the way?
Great.
We kind of got off on a tangent.
No, it went great. He's
that's the key.
He's has some success in the past playing, and he enjoys it.
Yeah.
And I'm just really looking forward to hopefully 4 more years of joy watching him grow. And
yeah.
I mean, I sound kind of dumb when I say that, but I mean it.
Dude, there's a lot of times you sound dumb, honestly.
So I don't have to.
That's not.
I don't have to point it out.
No, I'll point it out, but that actually wasn't one of
them.
That
wasn't dumb?
No.
Okay. So yeah, today was his first day, and they played their first game in a couple of weeks, and
earlier when you said no one cares about handwriting.
Yeah.
Some people do. That was kind of dumb. But
some people do.
No,
my friend Brian has the most beautiful penmanship.
I had a teacher one time hold my paper up to show the class how long one of my words, my cursive words were, to point out just how she wanted to make sure everybody knew how shitty my handwriting was. She cared about handwriting, Joel.
Right. That was back in the day when you could publicly embarrass a kid in the classroom.
She had to be able to pull the pencil out of your hand when you're writing, like if she snuck up behind you.
Oh.
Otherwise, you're holding
because if you're gripping it too tight.
Yeah.
You don't want to grip it too tight, Dan.
Yep.
Your pencil.
Nope. J'ai un grand crayon. We'll tell that story next time.
We'll tell that one.
J'ai un grand crayon. Look it up.
That's French, by the way.
I got a couple girls that are wanting to come out here and have me light my fire pit out here.
Okay.
So, I'm excited. I think it's good. I don't think we'll have, too many millions of people listening to it. But I think I'm going to sign us off.
No, I think it's a good start, and hopefully we can make these weekly. And if you hear this, we're going to host it on YouTube to start with, and then put it on Facebook. And if you like it, if you're listening, send it on to people and see if they like it.
Yeah,
and if you don't, then just say, you can either just stop listening.
Or you can go yourself.
Yes, you can. That's
all right.
What you can do.
Hey, folks, have a good night. Go yourself.